Welcome, dear students. Here we are studying, Madam Writes the Bus. Meanwhile, other students join us. I'll just share with you a video. You please watch it carefully.
By Valik Kannan. There was a little girl named Valliamma who was called Valli for short. Madam Rides the Bus by Valik Kannan. There was a little girl named Valliamma who was called Valli for short. She was 8 years old and very curious about things. Her favorite pastime was standing in the front doorway of her house, watching what was happening in the street outside. There were no playmates of her own age on her street, and this was about all she had to do. But for Valli, standing at the front door was every bit as enjoyable as any of the elaborate games other children played. Watching the street gave her many new, unusual experiences. The most fascinating thing of all was the bus that traveled between her village and the nearest town. It passed through her street each hour, once going to the town and once coming back. The sight of the bus, filled each time with a new set of passengers, was a source of unending joy for Valli. Day after day, she watched the bus, and gradually a tiny wish crept into her head and grew there. She wanted to ride on that bus, even if just once. This wish became stronger and stronger until it was an overwhelming desire. Valli would stare wistfully at the people who got on or off the bus when it stopped at the street corner. Their faces would kindle in her longings, dreams, and hopes. If one of her friends happened to ride the bus and tried to describe the sights of the town to her, Valli would be too jealous to listen and would shout in English, "Proud, proud!" Neither she nor her friends really understood the meaning of the word, but they used it often as a slang expression of disapproval. Over many days and months, Valli listened carefully to conversations between her neighbors and people who regularly used the bus. And she also asked a few discreet questions here and there. This way, she picked up various small details about the bus journey. The town was 6 miles from her village. The fare was 30 paisa one way, which is almost nothing at all, she heard one well-dressed man say. But to Valli, who scarcely saw that much money from one month to the next, it seemed a fortune. The trip to the town took 45 minutes. On reaching town, if she stayed in her seat and paid another 30 paise, she could return home on the same bus. This meant that she could take the 1 o'clock afternoon bus, reach the town at 1:45 and be back home by about 2:45. On and on went her thoughts as she calculated and recalculated, planned and replanned. Well, one fine spring day, the afternoon bus was just on the point of leaving the village and turning into the main highway when a small voice was heard shouting, "Stop the bus! Stop the bus!" And a tiny hand was raised commandingly. The bus slowed down to a crawl, and the conductor sticking his head out the door, said, "Hurry then! Tell whoever it is to come quickly." "It's me!" shouted Vali. "I'm the one who has to get on." By now, the bus had come to a stop, and the conductor said, "Oh, really? You don't say so." "Yes, I simply have to go to town," said Vali, still standing outside the bus. "And here's my money." She showed him some coins. Okay. But first, you must get on the bus," said the conductor. And he stretched out a hand to help her up. "Never mind," she said. "I can get on by myself. You don't have to help me." The conductor was a jolly sort, fond of joking. "Oh, please don't be angry with me, my fine madam," he said. "Here, have a seat right up there in front. Everybody move aside, please. Make way for madam." It was the slack time of day, and there were only 6 or 7 passengers on the bus. They were all looking at Vali and laughing with the conductor. Vali was overcome with shyness. Avoiding everyone's eyes, she walked quickly to an empty seat and sat down. "May we start now, madam?" the conductor asked, smiling. Then he blew his whistle twice, and the bus moved forward with a roar. It was a new bus. Its outside painted a gleaming white with some green stripes along the sides. Inside, the overhead bars shone like silver. Directly in front of Vali, above the windshield, there was a beautiful clock. The seats were soft and luxurious. Vali devoured everything with her eyes. What is happening? But when she started to look outside, she found her view cut off by a canvas blind that covered the lower part of a window. So she stood up on the seat and peered over the blind. The bus was now going along the bank of a canal. The road was very narrow. On one side, there was the canal, and beyond it, palm trees, grassland, distant mountains, and the blue sky. On the other side was a deep ditch, and then acres and acres of green fields. Green, green, green as far as the eye could see. Oh, it was all so wonderful. Suddenly she was startled by a voice. "Listen, child," said the voice. "You shouldn't stand like that. Sit down." Sitting down, she looked to see who had spoken. It was an elderly man who had honestly been concerned for her. But she was annoyed by his attention. "There's nobody here who's a child," she said haughtily. "I've paid my 30 paise like everyone else." The conductor chimed in. "Oh, sir, but this is a very grown-up madam. Do you think a mere girl could pay her own fare and travel to the city all alone?" Vali shot an angry glance at the conductor and said, "I am not a madam. Please remember that. And you've not yet given me my ticket." "I'll remember," the conductor said, mimicking her tone. Everyone laughed, and gradually, Vali too joined in the laughter. The conductor punched her ticket and handed it to her. "Just sit back and make yourself comfortable. Why should you stand when you've paid for a seat? Because I want to, she answered, standing up again. But if you stand on the seat, you may fall and hurt yourself when the bus makes a sharp turn or hits a bump. That's why we want you to sit down, child. I'm not a child, I tell you, she said irritably. I'm 8 years old. Of course, of course. How stupid of me. 8 years. Ah. The bus stopped. Some new passengers got on, and the conductor got busy for a time. Afraid of losing her seat, Valli finally sat down. An elderly woman came and sat beside her. Are you all alone, dear? She asked Valli as the bus started again. Valli found the woman absolutely repulsive. Such big holes she had in her earlobes, and such ugly earrings in them. And she could smell the betel nut the woman was chewing, and see the betel juice that was threatening to spill over her lips at any moment. Ah! Who could be sociable with such a person? Yes, I'm traveling alone, she answered curtly. And I've got a ticket too. Yes, she's on her way to town, said the conductor. With a 30 paise ticket? Oh, why don't you mind your own business? Said Valli. But she laughed all the same. And the conductor laughed too. But the old woman went on with her drivel. Is it proper for such a young person to travel alone? Do you know exactly where you are going in town? What's the street? What's the house number? You needn't bother about me. I can take care of myself, Valli said, turning her face towards the window and staring out.
Yes, dear students, is that what we have studied from the text?
Yes.
Do you
Yes, sir.
remember?
Yes.
Very good. So this was all about Valli, that is given there in part 1 and part 2. Can we now proceed with part 3? Is there any doubt? You got the answer now well for this oral comprehension check question number 1. Why does the conductor call Valli? Madam? Right?
Yes, sir.
First, she
Yes, sir.
simply raised her hand. Then she showed that she was there left who still want to get onto the bus. Then the conductor said, yes, you. Then she was a little shocked because a small girl was trying to get on. Then she got in and also showed him some coins. In fact, she was all, behaving like an adult, a grown-up person. And so here the conductor addressed her as woman. You can add your own points also in the context as per the reference given here, right? This is now part 3. Can we proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So her first journey. What careful, painstaking, elaborate plans she had to make for it. She had thriftily saved whatever stray coins came her way, resisting every temptation to buy peppermints, toys, balloons, and the like. And finally, she had saved her total of 60 paise. How difficult it had been, particularly that day at the village fair, but she had resolutely stifled a strong desire to ride the merry go round, even though she had the money. And dear students, it is said, no pain, no gain. Or if you want to get something, you have to lose something. That's what you can say here. And in part 1, we came to know how that desire was turned into the determination and her strong wish that she wanted to travel by bus to the town. And there, in the second part, we studied about her journey, how it went on, right? Now here the author is trying to point out some of the things that did it happen just casually, she wished and it happened? She just wished that she wanted to travel and she could? No, there were some of the things that we must notice. And what are they? Being a little girl, she could not manage those 60 paise. You can understand today 60 rupees, for example, for a girl just 8 years old, right? And there, the parents may be giving her some money for some chocolates or some, the things that she liked. And even there was a fair at her village. but she did not spend that money for those things, for the toys and all. You know how children are interested in. But she saved those money because she had a dream that she wanted to fulfill to go to the town by bus. So are you getting that? She sacrificed these all temptations. She came over, like to buy
Yes, sir.
better toys, balloons, and similar such kind of things, right? So she controlled all such kinds of temptations and saved those monies for her journey. And how was her first journey? So careful, painstaking, elaborate plans she had to make for it, right? Do you agree? Yes, she had planned and had worked on it finally. So firstly, we should know our goal, and then we should also not, think that it may happen that we will succeed. No, it needs proper plan. So it is said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I'll repeat again, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Right? It's so simple. And it needs finally efforts that you need to make for achieving your success. And how she, being just a 8-year-old girl, manage these things. And we should also know that if you want to gain something, there is pain that we just need to bear. Right? Again, I remember here one lesson from class 7, if you remember, Santosh Yadav. How she was troubled by some
Yes,
of
sir.
her senior mates over there, roommates. She used to go to bed at 8 o'clock, but they used to come at 11 and used to wake her up and used to order to clean and tidy up the room. Even in Bhag Milka Bhag movie, you must have seen that he was just trying to get that feeling of being number one and that coat he had put on, and how much he was beaten, right? Even at the time he was running, how there were the nails on his way, on his track, and he was injured. So the difficulties are there. People are there to trouble, some are there to help you, but you should be firm, right? With your desire, and that dream will definitely come true if you are strong and determined with your own decisions. So isn't this 8-year-old girl successful? That is another thing that she should not have gone all alone. She should have taken her mother with her. She could have told her mother and then mother could help her in this. There are many other things or the aspects, no doubt. But how she managed? Wasn't she daring really? In this? What do you say?
Yes, sir.
What about other dear students? There are 23
Yes,
present
sir.
here. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Do respond. Don't just keep quiet. Don't be just listener. Speak also sometimes. Being a good listener is always better, but as and when required, you please speak. So after she had enough money saved, her next problem was how to slip out of the house without her mother's knowledge. Now, dear students, how the movie is there now. Firstly, they show the end, then they again take us to the background of the story, then the story begins, and again they come to that point where the story had begun with, right? So that way, here in this story also, part 1 told us about her dream, part 2 told us how she could achieve, and meanwhile, they have now taken us back to the story, how she has managed and how she has been able to do these things all. And they will again take us back to the point where she had started traveling. And again, they will take us back to the scene where she had returned home after her journey to the town. Let's see how it is given here. So after she had enough money saved, her next problem was how to slip out of the house without her mother's knowledge. But she managed this without too much difficulty. Generally, it doesn't happen with the children to manage with the parents. They know everything, where the parents go at what time, and they easily manage. But here she finds it much difficult. How? Let's see. Every day after lunch, her mother would nap from about 1 to 4 or so. And there she remembers. There she finds a solution. That mother goes to bed at 1 p.m. at noon and gets up at around 4. And she knows the timings also. It takes 45 minutes to go and 45 minutes to come. So 1 to 1:45 going, then approximately 15 minutes here and there, 2 to 2:45 back, 3 o'clock. She will be back at home and she plans. So every day after lunch, her mother would nap from about 1 to 4 or so. Valli always used these hours for her exertions. What were they? As she stood looking from the doorway of her house, this is the word given in brackets, sorry, in single inverted comma. What do you understand from it? The exergens. There are different words. Exaggeration, excursion, exertion, or exertion.
Excursion means a short journey.
Very good. Right. So this is all about a short journey that she was planning for. And she was spending those hours, in planning how she could manage to go at 1 and will be back before her mother gets up. And there standing and looking out from the doorway of her house, or sometimes even ventured out into the village. She managed, these all things that her dream came true. Today, these same hours could be used for her first excursion outside the village, and it was the day that she had started her journey. How? You know. Now let's see. The author has again taken us back in the bus where she is traveling by bus. The bus rolled on, now cutting across a bare landscape. Now rushing through a tiny hamlet. Firstly, the canal came, there was water, the greenery everywhere, some palm trees, the hilly areas, the sky blue, and the area covered with complete green plants, and so green everywhere. And now the bus, where has it come? Let's see. The bus rolled on now, cutting across a bare landscape. Now rushing through a tiny hamlet or past an odd wayside shop. Sometimes the bus seemed on the point of gobbling up another vehicle that was coming towards them, or a pedestrian crossing the road. And sometimes we find as if we are going to dash into the bus coming in front or in the opposite direction. Even we sometimes feel that the person crossing the road is now will or going to meet with an accident with the bus. But the driver also knows well how to control the bus. The brake is there. The person crossing the road is also smart enough to judge and understand the distance and the speed that the vehicle has, and accordingly they manage. But lo, somehow it passed on smoothly because it was her first journey, and she was really literally scared that the vehicle was running across the road, some people crossing the road, and also the vehicles coming in opposite direction in front, right? So it was quite, difficult for her to understand these things, that how smoothly it was going on. But finally, she herself realized that yes, there was nothing wrong going to happen, and everything went and passed smoothly. So leaving all obstacles safely behind, she was feeling that it was all secure. Trees came running towards them, but then stopped as the bus reached them and simply stood there helpless for a moment by the side of the road before rushing away in the other direction. So are you getting this statement? I'll read again. Trees came running towards them, but then stopped as the bus reached them and simply stood there helpless for a moment by the side of the road before rushing away in the other direction. What are you getting, dear students, from this statement? Are the trees running?
No, sir. The bus
No,
is
sir.
in
No,
The
sir.
motion.
bus
Bus
is
When the
moves.
bus
just
moves, it
moving over
appears
there.
that
Sometimes,
trees are moving.
So when
sometimes at night or daytime, what you do, you just go on the terrace and lie on the ground, look in the sky, look for a minute or two. You will find that the clouds are not moving. You are moving. You will find like that. Then another example you can see, if you are there in a vehicle, but you are busy somewhere and you simply saw outside, you will find that another vehicle is moving. Even if the vehicle is there, but we are moving, but we find that another vehicle is moving. Especially for the trains, it happens as far as the train journey itself concerned.
yes, sir.
Sometimes when we are traveling, we find that we are at one place, but the moon or the sun is moving faster, like the cloud, right? And so the girl, it was her first journey. She realized that the trees are running, but no, the trees were not coming to her. She was going to them. The bus was moving towards the trees on the roads. And then she says that when the bus is near the tree, the trees were left behind. They were there only by the side of the road. and then she was rushing away in the other direction. The trees were not rushing, in fact, she was rushing, sitting in the bus, right? So you could understand it all.
Yes, sir.
Suddenly, Valli clapped her hands with glee, and something happened, being a child, and she started clapping in the bus. What was there that she could see and clap? Let's see. A young cow, tail high in the air, was running very fast right in the middle of the road, right in the front of the bus. The bus slowed to a crawl, and the driver sounded his horn loudly again and again. But the more he horned, the more frightened the animal became, and the faster it galloped, always right in front of the bus. And this is a cow, you can see, with her tail high there behind, and is running faster. And it might be the first incident with this cow that she had come on the roadway, and so was scared to see the vehicles, so could not understand where to go, to leave the road or go in the farm, or go on the roadway, or really scared, and so could not decide. And finally the vehicle was running and the cow was running, both of them on the roadway. The driver is blowing the horn again and again, louder and louder. Then the cow is again being frightened more, listening to that sound, and that way, the cow is trying to escape, and also the driver is trying to escape, so that there should not be an accident between the cow and the bus. But finally, the cow went aside, and the bus was easily driven by the driver ahead, and there she finally reached her village. Let's see, sorry, the town. And so, seeing that, how funny it was, no? That the cow is running, the driver is blowing the horn. For an 8-year child, it's an interesting thing to notice and see. And that way she finally clapped, seeing that incident happening in her journey to the town. Okay? Then this is something had happened while she was going in the town, but while returning, she came across the same cow. How? Let's see. Somehow this was very funny to Valli. Even when we are trying to cross, somebody also comes from the front, and we are also going. So that fellow finds us dashing into him, and we also find as if he is going to dash into us. Then both of us firstly take left, then both of us take simply right, and both of us, then dash into one another. So that's why there are some rules here, students. We should always keep left, or we should at least slow down our speed. We should never take the things granted, especially while we are riding or driving or traveling, right? Anything may happen. So better we always not speed up our vehicle. Acceleration should be, in a controlled way, that any way, other vehicle or a person or such an animal comes across, we should be able to control, right? There should be, it is said, minimum 3 seconds of the gap between two vehicles. Why not say distance? Because it depends on the speed. If the vehicle is with 60 km per speed, and if there is a difference only of a meter between two vehicles, there is 100% possibility that the vehicle is going to dash into the another. If we say 10 meters and speed is 140 kilometers per hour, then also it doesn't make any difference. But the time limit is very important, that there should be that much of gap between the vehicle that within 3 seconds, that distance can be covered, and you may be able to control your vehicle. Are you getting here, students? That is the rule, 3 seconds, if I'm not wrong. I'm sure it is 3 seconds, right? 1 second for realizing that the front vehicle has stopped or there is something. Second for, to break it. And third, to take, that much distance to be covered. This is not my logic, I'm just telling logically, but it is 3 seconds only. You may search for it, right? So that way, the vehicle is moving, the girl just being 8 years old, enjoying her journey. Then what more incidents take place on her way to the town, and her way from town to her village is really very interesting, and she finds it very funny for her, since it is her first time that she is traveling by bus to the town. Are you understanding and getting everything, your students, that I'm sharing?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you so much. So somehow this was very funny to Ali. She laughed and laughed until there was tears in her eyes, and she burst into the laughter and could not control. And finally there were tears rolling on her cheek, not for grief, but it happened out of happiness and laughter that she had. Hey, lady, haven't you laughed enough? Called the conductor. Better save some for tomorrow. And there is a funny person with her in the bus who is never going to get down from the bus. He is going to be there all the time as long as he is there in the bus. Who is he?
Conductor.
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 Yeah. I'll ask you one more question, but not applicable for this time. But in my childhood, I was told by many people, even I remember my teacher, that who is the one, who is not a lady but carries the purse? Who is the one not in the temple but rings the bell? Who is the one is not the mad one but tears the papers? Who is the one?
Conductor.
Can you say?
Conductor.
Conductor.
Not applicable nowadays because even one more, not the beggar but collects and asks for money. So these are the four things which can describe the conductor well. But they do not have purse nowadays, nor they go on, tearing the papers because there is, the machine that they carry and simply take out one and hand it over to you. But they do ask for money, don't they?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good. It's going to be 1:30. Can we continue then in the next session?
Yes,
All
sir.
right,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
so much.
Yes, sir.
Have a great
Yes,
day.
sir.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye,
Thank
sir.
you,
Bye,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, everyone. See you.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.